Alright lads, today we're going to be talking about the Su-8. This is a rank 4 battle rating 4.7 attacker plane located in the Soviet tech tree. This plane is a reward for the ongoing Season 6 Firepower Battle Pass. This is the top reward, requiring you to grind out 75 levels of the Battle Pass. But before we start with the review, let's have a little bit of context. The Su-8 was designed to be a long-range close air support aircraft. In the early parts of World War II, as well as modern day really, the Soviet or Russian supply lines and logistics was pretty bad. And as the Germans took ground, the Soviets were losing lots of their frontline airfields. This meant attacking aircraft and close air support aircraft were having to take off and fly a lot further than usual to get to the front lines. This is the reason for the Su-8 being a twin-engine design, and kind of mirroring the image of a medium bomber. But you might be saying to yourself, when you think of close air support in the Soviet army, you think of the Sturmovik. Well basically, as everyone knows, in the second half of the World War, the Russians started winning, and started retaking the rear fields, as well as taking German airfields as they advanced. This meant they no longer really needed a long-range close air support aircraft, and due to the fact that an Su-8 cost roughly 3 times as much as a Sturmovik, as well as Stalin's pretty much obsession with the Sturmovik, it was thought better to just mass-produce the IL-2, rather than do what the Germans did, and sink a shitload of money into so-called advanced weapon systems, which barely even worked. But, as I said, in-game this is a rank 4 battle rating 4.7 plane in the Soviet tech tree. To put it in your lineup, it'll cost you 10,000 silver lions, it is after all a premium. For the expert and ace qualifications, it's 290,000 silver lions for the expert, and 940 golden eagles for the ace. However, seeing as this is a twin-engine close air support vehicle, the expert and ace qualifications aren't too important. In terms of rewards, while playing realistic battles, and with a premium account, you can expect an RP modifier of 523% and a silver line modifier of 406%. In terms of camouflages, there are no available to purchase for golden eagles, but there is additional camouflages in the battle pass tree. So boys, here's this massive close air support vehicle with 4 45mm guns and 8 rifle caliber Shikast machine guns. Is it worth the grind? Well, it's certainly got the firepower, but does it have the performance? Alright, starting with the performance. And the Su-8 is powered by 2 Shvetsov M71 radial engines, each producing 2,000 horsepower each. Being a ground attack aircraft, these engines are naturally best tuned for low altitude performance, and they certainly are very powerful. 2,000 horsepower engines is very impressive, to be honest. It's very respectable for a ground attacker. While the stat card does give you a rate of climb of 9.3 meters per second, I found that you can maintain around 300 kilometers per hour in around a 12-degree climb. That performance, combined with the vehicle's air spawn, easily allows you to intercept most bombers, at least on the medium and large maps in War Thunder. So while the plane does have a lot of power, what's its top speed like? On the stat card, it says it can reach a top speed of 550 km per hour. Strangely, at an altitude of 7,000 meters. While you can achieve those speeds at the high altitude, it is because it's such a high altitude and the air is a lot thinner. I seriously would not recommend climbing to that altitude in this plane. If you do climb to altitude though, remember what goes up must come down, and the Su-8's wings will rip at a speed of 720 km per hour, IAS of course. The gear will rip at 390 km per hour, and the combat and takeoff flats will also rip around 400 km per hour. It's quite hard to get the plane up to those top speeds of 720 km per hour unless you're in a steep dive, so I wouldn't really worry too much about ripping your wings in this plane. When it comes to manoeuvring, this plane is by far more agile around speeds of 380 to 360 km per hour. So like a lot of Soviet planes, and especially ground attackers, your control surfaces do lock up at quite low speeds compared to other nations, so just bear that in mind. Again, it's a ground attack aircraft, so you're not going to be going transonic or anything in this thing, obviously. In terms of turning, this is a twin-engine, practically medium bomber, so don't expect any miracles. You're not going to be out-turning anything apart from B-17s in this thing, really. Especially at battle rating 4.7, where you're going to be going up against Zero, Spitfires, and Focke-Wulf 190s. You are not going to be able to out-turn or energy trap any of those planes, so keep low, keep fast. Maybe climb at the start of a game and take out a bomber and then retreat down. This isn't like a Hornet or a P-38G. You can't energy fight monoplanes really. It's more like an ME-410 rather than a twin-engine fighter. You can intercept bombers to your heart's content, but if a fighter comes, you're pretty much boned. So, the firepower, the favourite part of all my reviews. And you certainly cannot say that the Su-8 is underarmed. and in my opinion, maybe a little bit overarmed. In total, this plane carries 14 weapons. 4 45mm cannons located under the nose of the aircraft, 8 rifle caliber machine guns mounted in the wing roots, and then 2 defensive machine guns, one mounted on the belly of the aircraft, and one mounted on the spine of the tail. Bear in mind, all these weapons are very heavy, and are kind of a little bit out of place in my opinion. We'll start in the wings. As I said, each wing has 4 SAKO machine guns with 600 rounds of ammunition each. These guns have a rate of fire of 1800 rounds per minute, so they are very good at saturating a target area, or doing a lot of damage to an airplane in a short amount of time. However, the wings of this plane are very big. It is a medium bomber chassis after all really. This means that gun convergence is very important. If you're trying to shoot at an enemy that's close to you, especially if it's a small target, then you may find it difficult to get all of your guns actually on target. But if you do manage to land hits, then the SAKO machine guns are very effective, especially when using the tracer belts. The tracer belt contains armor-piercing incendiary rounds, as well as armor-piercing incendiary tracer. These guns are notorious for starting fires, and are arguably the best 7.62mm machine gun in the game. Like I said, the SAKO machine guns are very powerful, but you will struggle to aim them. The same can also be said for the 45mm guns mounted in the nose of the plane. These are the 45mm NS-45 cannons. They have 50 rounds of ammunition each, and have a fire rate of 258 rounds per minute. These guns are very powerful. When you fire them, there will be felt recoil in the plane. This means that your accuracy rapidly decreases with every continued shot, so it's best to fire these guns in bursts. Firing in bursts both improves accuracy, as well as prevents overheating the gun, and these guns do overheat very quickly. People who have played the Yak-9T or any of the other Soviet planes with large caliber guns will know what I'm talking about. It's generally not a good idea to hold your trigger down on these planes because the guns jam after bloody 5 shots it seems. But we have a selection of choices for our 45mm guns. We have an air target belt as well as an armoured target belt. The air target belt contain 80 grams of TNT filler and penetrate 4mm. From my experience, when these rounds connect they do absolutely devastating damage, both to bombers and monoplanes. But remember, with the plane's poor turning performance, as well as a rather slow muzzle velocity of 780 meters per second, the hardest part is getting the rounds to actually hit the target. But when they do hit, you won't be disappointed. We then also have the armoured target belts. These travel slightly faster at 820 meters per second, but contain no explosive filler, as they are solid armour piercing. At a combat distance of around 500 meters, they can penetrate 48mm of flat armour. In my opinion, this isn't that good to be honest. The 45mm guns are rather low velocity. If you're familiar with the TIS-MAR, a 3.7 ground attack aircraft, that has high velocity 37mm cannons, which are very powerful indeed. While the 45mm gun of the Su-8 and the 37mm gun of the TIS-MAR are similar on paper, the TIS-MAR performance just seems a lot more reliable in my opinion. However, being completely honest, I think this is more due to the TIS-MAR being a lot nimbler. I've said it a few times now, this is essentially a medium bomber airframe. You can't exactly come barreling in and out the sky, take a few shots and then rapidly pull out. If you dive in this plane, you will not really be able to pull out of it, especially in ground realistic battles where we're usually at a very low altitude. And bear in mind, the TIS-MAR is battle rating 3.7, where this is 4.7. But is there anything the Su-8 can do that the TIS-MAR can't do? Well, in my opinion, the best loadout for the TIS-MAR is 2 500 kilo bombs. The Su-8 in comparison can also carry 500 kilo bombs, but it can carry it alongside several other weapons. For example, you have 500 kilo bombs alongside 100 kilo bombs, or you can take 500 kilo bombs with a selection of different rockets. Personally, I'd either take 2 500 kilo bombs or the 3 250 kilo bombs. The 250 kilogram bombs are usually good enough as long as you're accurate, so I'd rather take the 3 bomb drops rather than the 2 slightly larger bombs. But the choice is yours, lads. When it comes to rockets, you can carry 4 different types. However, as I've said several times now, this is a very large aircraft. Rocket-equipped planes usually do very well when they are small, easy to manoeuvre. You can get in close, fire them off, and then rapidly avoid the enemy fire. But in a big plane like this, you just won't be able to get away from the battlefield quick enough. At 4.7, there are lots of American tanks that have 50 cals on the roof, and they will tear you apart if you're coming in low and slow with this thing, so I generally stick to the bombs, come in at a medium altitude, dive, drop, and then clear out the sky. You can't really fire rockets from the same range as you drop bombs, so in my opinion, just stick to bombs, it's a lot easier. But I'm not an expert at casts, and you may be a lot better than me. Point I'm making though, lads, is you've got a very wide option here if you want. You've got bombs and rockets, bombs or rockets, do what you want. Like a lot of Soviet planes, the Su-8 just doesn't have a correct playstyle. It is what you make it. So lads, is the Su-8 worth the grind? Well, to be completely honest with you, I'm just going to say, not really. For me, someone that already has the TIS-MAR, I don't really see any reason to get the Su-8 to be honest. There just isn't really any meta that this plane fits. For bomber interdiction, you want more of a lighter plane with a lot better climb rate. While the firepower can make short work of enemy bombers, you're completely vulnerable to enemy escort fighters. And it's similar in ground realistic battles. While you do have very strong weapons, your cannons, bombs and rockets, well, the airframe isn't really made for fast diving attacks. While the bombs certainly are very good, they are very powerful, but you can't really optimise your cannons for ground attack. The weakest parts of tank armour is naturally the roof, but if you try and go into a near vertical dive in this plane, especially at combat speeds, you're going to have to be pulling out at around a kilometre away from the target. At that range, it's very hard to get an accurate shot, especially with low velocity 45mm guns. So again, the Su-8 doesn't really seem optimised for any one battlefield role. Some people may like this, as it means you can do everything kind of well, but I usually run several planes in a lineup. I usually have a fighter and a bomber or a close air support plane. When you try to combine roles in military terms, you usually end up with a vehicle that does neither well. Look at pretty much all British vehicles from the last 50 years. We don't have a budget, so we're going to have to make one vehicle do several things. And as a result, the vehicles are usually awful. With the exception of Tornado, Challenger 2, and of course the Eurofighter. But you get what I'm trying to say, lads. It just feels too big and clumsy to do ground attack well, to be honest. In my opinion, the IL-2 Sturmovik is basically on the edge of being a bit too big as it already was. That plane was already at the limit of acceptable performance for a ground strike aircraft. So making a plane that's twice as big with a massive airframe and 2 engines, it's just not great in its designated role. Of course, you will have to buy the battle pass for this to work. It's not like you're going to get a free premium by just grinding out. You do need to actually purchase the battle pass. So it doesn't really have that excuse either. It's always a free premium, so you can't complain. You do going to have to pay 2,000 golden eagles to get this and then do a hell of a lot of grinding. I'm quite late with this review. I do apologise, but I've had a lot of stuff to do. Plus, playing 4.7 Soviet is very painful because it's either get fisted by Japanese teams or get fisted by German teams. Take your pick. But anyway, lads, I'd save your money and save your time and more importantly, save your sanity. I wouldn't grind out this premium. I'd save you 2,000 golden eagles. As usual, boys, thank you very much for watching this video. Leave a comment down below about which plane, ship, tank or helicopter you guys would like to see reviewed next. And thank you very much for watching.